Introduction. Before anything was made, God existed in three persons who enjoyed perfect harmony with one another. The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit were constantly finding joy in one another. The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit experienced perfect love within one another for all eternity. Why then was the world made? It couldn't have been because God was lonely. God had been experiencing perfect fellowship within himself for all eternity. Asking why God created the world is a lot like asking why a happily married couple would have children. Last year, when I got the call that my brother's wife was pregnant, I didn't ask, "Are you and Christine not doing well? Are you having children because you are lonely?" No. I responded, "Really? That's great." I knew why Matthew was happy to share the news of Christine's pregnancy. He was happy because love is meant to be multiplied. When the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit devised a plan to create the world, they did not do this because they were lonely. The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit happily participated in the creation of the world because in doing so, they were seeing perfect love multiplied. God placed humankind in a garden in the center of his world. God called mankind to take care of the garden, that is, to have dominion over it. Mankind was given the joyful responsibility of bearing God's image in the world as they tended to the needs of the earth. Humans had a perfect relationship with God, with one another, and with the world. Everything was good. Everything was in perfect order. The love of God reigned in every decision that was made. How tragic, then, it must have been for the triune God to see the pinnacle of his creation, human beings, reject this perfect love. How heart-wrenching it must have been for God to see human beings reject perfect peace, perfect sovereignty, and perfect joy. Chaos ensued when humanity decided to rule over the world without considering God's perfect peace, sovereignty, and joy. In the words of my friend Joshua Wetstein, hell is the heaven man created. Genesis chapters 4 through 11 give us 5 pictures to show the chaos the world was experiencing as a result of humankind rejecting their Maker. The first picture is found in Genesis chapter 4. The sons of the first man, the first woman, had a tragic encounter. Cain, the older son, murdered his younger brother Abel. The second picture is another murder. Later in chapter 4, Lamech is shown boasting about murdering a man who merely hit him. Imagine the scene. A man hits Lamech, and Lamech responds by taking this man's life. Lamech's form of justice is, quote, "You hit me in the eye, okay, I'm going to take off your head." When that line of thinking passes for justice, violence increases in the world God made. Chapter 6 begins by telling us about the sons of God. There's much debate about who these sons of God were, but for our purpose today, I want to see the actions of these men. Quote, "The sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive," end quote. See how this corresponds to Adam's response to the woman in the garden? The men thought the women were beautiful. There's no problem with that. But look at the next sentence. "And they took as their wives any they chose." In the beginning, Adam responded to the woman by offering her his whole self. He said, "This is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." Adam knew his wife. By chapter 6 of Genesis, men are taking women. No more are men found giving their whole selves for a woman. Now men have become consumers who take what they like from a woman without offering the same intimacy found in Genesis chapter 2. The fourth picture of the chaos is the climax of the tragedy. In chapter 6, God saw that humankind was thinking about evil all the time. Every man meditated on evil all day, every day. No longer did the love of God reign in every decision humans made. On the contrary, every person considered new ways to do violence to those around them. This grieved God to his heart. Lastly, in chapter 11, mankind has come together to devise a plan to get back the joy they lost in the garden. They decided they would build an idol for themselves. They would build an idol in the form of a tower to point themselves towards the greatness of humankind. This was an attack directed towards God. No more did they need to obey God by multiplying his image, his love, and his joy throughout the earth. No, they would stay in one place and reflect on the greatness of their own accomplishments. In the midst of this chaos, we might think God would abandon his earth, but God had another plan, a plan that would bring joy to the world.